This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network, presented by Hearthside Bank.
Tennessee recruiting. How is this class, the class of 2026, coming together? We all know the recruiting rankings, but how's Tennessee doing head-to-head against their SEC rivals? Is there an improvement overall in the way this staff is recruiting? I'm John Pennington. This is the Sports Source Digital Network. I'm joined by Ryan Callahan of 24/7 Sports, Go Vols 24/7. You can find his work there. Of course, you cover recruiting there, and I always bring you in. You're the recruiting guru on the Sports Source family of shows and networks and everything else we got going. I want to do... quickly, let's just start with some of the latest news. Some of the stuff from last week, we didn't have a chance to talk about it. Tennessee got a couple of big-time athletes, but they had a big-time tight end that went to North Carolina. They got Belichicked. So tell me a little bit about those three guys.
So mostly a good week overall, and the Carson Snead decommitment, not totally out of the blue, but we'll get to that in a minute. But Joel Wyatt, in-state, big-time athlete, as you said, really interesting prospect because there are some kind of differing opinions on him and where he projects best at the next level. Tennessee has been recruiting him for months as an edge rusher. There was sort of a pivot toward the end of his recruitment. He initially planned to announce a decision on July 6th, pushed it back a few weeks, and Tennessee sort of had to address some concerns with him about that because I don't think he really has seen himself as an edge rusher. Wants to play safety. Tennessee's going to give him a chance to start off there. He's 6'4", 195 or so already. Big kid. Has mostly played wide receiver in high school. He's going to play some safety this year at Oakland High School in Murfreesboro, so he'll get a chance to show what he looks like there, at least at a pretty high school level. But he kind of got to project a little bit to the safety position. He's not done it a whole lot in high school. So where does he fit in? No one's been recruiting him as a wide receiver. Most people seem to think he belongs on defense in college. So is he going to grow into an edge rusher? Well, it doesn't sound like he's going to lean into that. So how does he look as a safety? It's an interesting projection long term. So he's a top 50 prospect nationally, but I'll be interested in seeing how he looks this season. Does he stay that high in the rankings? Because there are some questions about sort of where he fits in positionally. But either way, a big in-state win for Tennessee to hold off Vanderbilt and some other schools that had gotten into that one and sort of complicated it down the stretch.
And this is one of those, it was one of the first tests for the revenue sharing deal because Vandy was offering him a ton of cash, from what I understand.
Well, I don't know how real that ended up being in the end.
Okay.
So
well, that was the rumor, was that Vandy was going all in. That's why he was keeping. Well, that's why it was. Usually, you don't see Tennessee and Vandy neck and neck for a guy. The revenue sharing / NIL world does make that more possible than it used to be. But we've seen some times James Franklin when he was there. There were some times Vanderbilt went head to head, but a decade ago.
Different era now. So now it's more possible because of revenue sharing and things like that. And I think Vanderbilt was competitive and made that recruitment a close one for a while. But in the end, Tennessee did what they had to do to get that one done. And it was a nice win for them in state. And they followed up with another top 50 prospect nationally, a 5-star in the 24/7 Sports Composite in Celeste Moa, athlete from Utah. Unusual for Tennessee to go all the way out to Utah to get a guy, but and to beat
they're getting the Polynesian guys.
And to get one that Utah made a huge priority in state. That's who it came down to in the end, Tennessee and Utah. But Michigan, Washington, and Michigan State were the other finalists. Some other good programs had offered him, but it's sort of an interesting group of finalists there. But either way, a guy that legitimately could play either side of the ball in college sort of reminds me of, at least in terms of his projection to wide receiver or safety, kind of Mike Matthews-ish coming out of high school, in that Mike Matthews could have been a pretty high-level safety, most people thought, coming out of high school. Now a guy that can play wide receiver and seems to want to play wide receiver at Tennessee. But one of our analysts, Brandon Huffman, described it as on the day he committed, said, this is not to say he's Travis Hunter, because I don't think he will be that. But if there was someone in this class who could play legitimately on either side of the ball and be good at it, play at a high level on both sides, it's him. So so a really good player, 6'1", 190, good athlete. And so for Tennessee to get those two wins a few days apart, really nice week.
Go ahead.
I would say you end with the decommitment of Carson Snead, which had kind of been months in the making. He'd taken a lot of visits since February or January or so, and really, down the stretch, it looked like there were some times it looked like Tennessee might hold on to him, but his brother Dayton Snead, being a wide receiver at Tennessee, transferred out after spring practice
to Carolina.
Went to North Carolina, and you kind of had a feeling at the time it happened that's going to be a thorn in the side for Tennessee in that recruitment. I think it ended up being a big deal. So had some concerns about the tight end position, Tennessee's offense, that they tried to address. I think they mostly handled those, but in the end, just how much North Carolina prioritized, and they've been pretty aggressive in trying to get into Tennessee and some neighboring states, try to establish a footprint under Belichick.
Well, and I saw the kid made the comment that, well, they coached the greatest tight end of all time, Gronkowski. It's like, okay.
And they've got some things like that they can sell creatively. So we'll see how that works out long term. But either way, in this case, having that family connection, I think a big deal. So those brothers get a chance to play together at North Carolina, and Tennessee loses an in-state player you'd like to keep, but one that's not an insurmountable. I don't think that's a huge loss for Tennessee in the grand scheme of things. Kind of more of an inline tight end probably. Yeah. They've got some pretty athletic guys in that room that have maybe higher ceilings than him, but a good player you'd like to keep in state.
All right. So how many 5-stars do you guys have for 24/7 Sports? How many 5-stars do you have for Tennessee right now?
So it depends on the ranking you look at.
Faizon Brandon is definite in both your rankings, correct?
Yes, he is. Now, if you look at just the 24/7 Sports rankings, we have the offensive lineman Gabriel Osenda from Baylor School in Chattanooga as a 5-star.
He is not composite.
Not even close to a composite 5-star. So he's a guy that's...
You guys like him better than
much
other
better.
sides.
Yeah, we're much higher on him than other networks for whatever that's worth. Sometimes we get him right, sometimes we get him wrong. So we'll have to see over this season. I think we'll get a better evaluation on him senior year. And then you've got Celeste Moa, who's a 5-star in the 24/7 Sports composite, but just outside 5-star range in our rankings. Top 50 nationally still. So if you go by this composite, 2 5-stars. If you go by our rankings, 2 5-stars. Some people put them together. Some people put them together and choose to use whichever one, and they say 3.
You know me, I'm Mr. Positive. Let's go with 3. So that is a positive that you've got that many guys who are either there or on the cusp.
Well, and I'll say this: they've got 6 players now in this class who are top 100 players nationally in 24/7 Sports ranking. That's a pretty big number. So some depth to the class developing.
That's perfect, and that's where I wanted to go. Are you seeing a difference in terms of last year? We finally saw kind of a step up in quality, who they were competing with.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you're not competing with Mississippi State. You're competing with Alabama.
Yep.
All right. You're competing with Georgia. This year, it seems you're getting some of these guys. Mm-hmm. Are you seeing a step up, a ramp up for this staff at all in terms of recruiting, or is that just kind of is it too early to tell?
I think it's fairly in line with what they did last year, which last year's class had tremendous depth to it. They ended up having 17 4- and 5-stars in that class going by the 24/7 Sports composite. Out of 25 signees, that's a pretty strong group. So this year's class maybe not quite as deep overall, but getting deeper at the top. And that's what this class looks like it's going to be about. And they're still in the mix for some highly ranked guys that could continue to define this class as a really strong one, but they're probably not going to end up with 17 4- and 5-stars unless they really go on a run here during the season. Still not done with this class by any means, but at the same time, they've got a top 10 class as we record this. They've been in the top 10, moved up to number 9 at one point last week. So they've had some really nice additions here this summer that have made it a stronger class top to bottom. Some people were calling me and even asking going into the summer. I know you had some questions too. What's going on with Tennessee?
They were 35th and dropped. Yeah,
they were ranked in the 50s at one point before they went on their run. So they had a nice summer to sort of make up some ground on some other teams that had gotten off to a hotter start, and they some of the big time battles they were in that they were sort of waiting on fell their way. A few didn't, but a few went their way. Joel Wyatt was a big one. They needed in-state to kind of salvage the in-state class. So you've got some nice things that have happened, but top to bottom, is it a lot different from last year? I wouldn't say that, but you've got that number 1 player in the class, Faizon Brandon, that obviously gives you a big-time quarterback to sort of that adds some validity to what you're doing on a national level, because everyone knew the deal with Nico, the fact that you had, because it's the way they won Faizon Brandon. He wanted to go to Tennessee, and it wasn't just about money from the start. He was a North Carolina kid who came over here a lot, liked Tennessee, and it just worked out. So to have a win like
wasn't
that,
just a gun for hire.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of credibility, I think, and he's been able to kind of give Tennessee a little bit more of a reputation of, hey, they're churning out big time, or they're getting big prospects at quarterback to come in there on a regular basis, and that's getting some receivers to look at them that are higher level and things like that.
60 seconds, because I want to throw one more. I want to take one more thing with you. So let's just end this one with a quickie. It sounds like I know the answer, but I want you to say it. I've asked you this before. If you want to start competing for SEC titles, you can't be. It's great to be, wow, we're 10th or 11th in the nation, and you're 6th or 7th in the SEC.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're still kind of in that 6th range.
Well,
6 or 7. You need to be in that top 2, top 3. You're not Texas, you're not Georgia, you're not Alabama.
That's what
or
I
LSU.
say. And that's
correct.
And that's probably fair. The tricky part about this is you got to have. I mean, everyone says we've got the money. Why can't we go and be Georgia, be Alabama? You got to have the money and the reputation. And so now some good things.
Or the recruiters.
Yeah, and the good things that have happened for them, collectives can get back involved in recruiting. There's some things like that have worked in their favor. That's good for Tennessee in the long run, but you do have to continue to get results in the NFL draft, continue to win more. They just got in the playoff for the first time. You got to keep chopping wood. It's going to take a few years to get up to that level, most likely.
I agree with that. I'm not going to argue with you, but I do think that there are recruiters out there who they can sell ice cream to the, I started to say something, you're not supposed to use that word anymore, to the indigenous people of Alaska.
Yeah.
That's the old adage, and I don't know, I just wonder where this staff would be if it weren't for NIL and the collectives. And I'll just close it with that. Do you want to add?
I think it's harder. It's a harder sell these days if you don't have the NFL reputation. If you're a coach that has a reputation for putting guys in the league, you can go out and make that sell. These days, if you don't have that, players probably going to go where the more money is.
Got to get guys in the league. Yeah. All right, Ryan Callahan, thank you very much. Folks, thank you for watching. Be sure to click the thumbs up if you like this kind of content. Hit the subscribe button. That does us a world of good. Hit the notify button. That way you'll know when we put up new videos. And also leave a comment. If you think there's some guys out there Tennessee needs to be doing a better job with, put it in the comments. If you think Tennessee's recruiting just fine, just well enough, put that in the comments. I want to know what you think. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time on the Sports Source Digital Network.